I want to thank a few of our sponsors specifically: ATK, Cabela's Outdoor Fund, Hornaday Manufacturing, the Sportsman's Channel, and Intermedia Outdoors. Could you help me give them a round of applause for hosting our event tonight? And we've got a new chairman of our board and some new leadership in our board of directors. We have term limits on our board, so we're not running anybody off of the board. It's just it's the way we do business, and allows new blood to come in with new ideas. And our new chairman of the board really doesn't need any introduction for this crowd, but I think everybody here knows Mark DeYoung. So I'm going to hand the microphone off. Mark is president and chairman of ATK for another couple of weeks, I believe, and then we'll take over in the new venture for Vista Outdoors with all of the sporting side of things, and we're wishing him well, obviously, on that, and looking forward to continuing to work with him. So please welcome Mark DeYoung.
It's a great privilege to be able to be part of what is a fantastic leadership heritage with Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation. So I'm incredibly honored to be able to be the incoming chairman for the foundation, and I'm completely committed to strengthening the organization, and we have a great board and leadership that's going to help us strengthen the foundation. I want to share a little bit about the foundation just briefly as by way of introduction tonight for some of you who may not be as familiar with it, but I also want to introduce some key leaders and contributors to what will be the success of the foundation, both in the past, looking back, the success we've enjoyed, but also going forward. So we have several board members here that I just want to introduce. So Ben Carter is here from Dallas Safari Club. My good friend Chris Dorsey over here. Chris is here. Chris is from Orion Multimedia. Brad Franklin is here from Yamaha Corporation. Jason Hornaday from Hornady Ammunition is here. Brian Linneman from Cabela's is with us tonight. Paul Miller from Tech Exec is here tonight. Phil Morlock from Shimano. I saw Phil earlier today. There he is. Phil's here. Thank you, Phil. JP Morris from Bass Pro Shop. There he is right up front. JP, glad to have you here with us tonight. And then I want to introduce a few fantastic leaders who are here and have been great supporters and had key roles in the past. And I don't want to miss these veterans that have been so important to conservation and so important to our mission. So Rob Kett, good friend Rob, is here. Rob is with Bass Pro Shops. Doug Painter, Doug's here somewhere. There he is over there, Doug. Doug is formerly with the National Shooting Sports Foundation. Jeff Perro from Intermedia Outdoors. Jeff provided our venue tonight. There he is, Jeff in the center. Jeff provided our venue and made this available to us. And Jeff, we really appreciate your support. You did this as well last year out of the goodness of your heart and your company's support. We appreciate that. Merrill Shepard. Is Merrill around? I think he's here tonight. And also Melissa Simpson from Safari Club International is here. So I want to thank those. You can see the passion for the organization when you get these veterans who have served in the past and they're still here tonight. They're still here helping us drive the organization. I think it gives you all some feel of the importance and the passion that we feel about the outdoors. And so let me just share briefly with you a few comments. But before we do that, I think we were going to show the video. Do we have that, Jeff? I want to thank Chris Dorsey and Orion Multimedia. Chris, if you don't know Chris, you should. Chris is a fantastic guy, but more importantly, he's a great professional in the outdoor recreation market and in a lot of other markets as he grows his business. And I asked Chris to join the board of directors for Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation. He's a very busy executive, but he quickly jumped right in and he put together a great little overview video for us. So Chris, I appreciate that, and let's show that. So Chris, thanks to Gerald. Whenever I hear that voice, I know we've got great support from Gerald. He's been a fantastic outdoorsman, and he's going to speak to us here in just a few minutes, and we'll turn the mic over to Gerald so he can share his own personal view of the importance of conservation and the importance of what we're trying to accomplish. But I wanted to share with you just a few factoids, kind of quick to orient you a little bit again to the Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation mission. So let me just share some of these factoids with you. So it was formed in 1989 to assist Congressional Sportsmen's Caucus, which, by the way, is one of the largest bipartisan caucuses in Congress, which is terrific. And on these kinds of issues, we get great bipartisan support. It's a hard thing to find these days in Washington. My office is in Washington. I end up on the Hill all the time. It is the most divisive environment I've seen in years there. When it comes to these issues, Jeff and the team in the foundation get great bipartisan support. It's one of the largest caucuses on Capitol Hill. In 2014, it was Congressional Sportsman Foundation 25th anniversary, so it's been a long heritage of success. 10 years ago, CSF established the National Assembly of Sportsmen's Caucuses to include state legislators, which is a critical part of the grassroots issues that we have to pursue for conservation and access. 5 years ago, the Governor's Sportsman Caucus was created, trying to again extend that network to governors around the country. Today there are 26 members of the Governor's Sportsman's Caucus. Our mission is to work with Congress, governors, and state legislators to protect and advance hunting, angling, recreational shooting, and trapping. So that's our message. We're protecting this great heritage that I grew up with. I shared this story with a few of you. My first trophy shot is I'm 2 years old, sitting on the back step with 2 rooster pheasants in my lap that my dad shot, and that's how I started. And I've been chasing those darn birds ever since. A few other just quick factoids before I turn this over to Gerald. There are 37 million hunters and anglers above the age of 16 in the U.S. Sportsmen and women spend $90 billion annually to hunt, fish, and shoot. And we're focused on policies to ensure that some of that spending and some of that money goes back where it should go, and that's into wildlife conservation and to access. A few key highlights I think that are important for you to understand if you're not familiar with the foundation. National Wildlife Refuge System Improvement Act was a critical act. 150 million acres of land, water for hunting and angling was key policies that have been pursued by this foundation. State wildlife grant programs, including $1 billion in federal, state, and private funds to protect and manage habitat and research, was a key element of what we have pursued with the foundation. Other key initiatives, getting the fuel excise tax, which is about $327 million from motorboat fuels, back into helping us with boating safety and fisheries and conservation and access. The North Americans Wetland Conservation Act, it was $1.2 billion in federal grants for waterfowl. 27 million acres of habitat was protected for migratory birds. Another thing we pursued is the ability to hunt on Sundays. And Sunday hunting, as you may or may not know, is a significant issue across the country. And we have taken that issue on through the Sunday Hunting Coalition. It is now allowed in 45 states. Apprentice hunting license program offered in 45 states. Right to hunt and fish now guaranteed in 17 states. Crossbows are now legal for hunting in 49 states. Interstate Wildlife Violators Compact now has 42 members. So I could go on and on, but those are the kind of key initiatives that are important to this industry and important to those who love this hunting and fishing heritage. And so if you're not a member, if you're not contributing as a company, as a sponsor of Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation, I'm asking you to contribute. I'm asking you to reach into your wallet and look at your company, look at yourself personally, become a member of our Chairman's Club if you'd like to do it personally, and find a way to support the foundation so we can continue to do this great work. Jeff Crane has a great team, properly connected to get the job done. We're working with lots of other organizations and foundations who share our goals and our objectives in a collaborative way to accomplish the kind of legislative success that we need to protect this way of life and our access. And I encourage you to contribute. We'll be happy to share with you information about the foundation and how to contribute and become a corporate sponsor or an individual member if you're interested in that. And I'm asking for your support, so let us get you the information you need to make that decision. I'd like to introduce Gerald Graney. I watched Gerald shoot a leopard on TV that Chris filmed, and I've watched Gerald both host and do commentary on some terrific outdoor media programs. And I appreciate, Gerald, your willingness to be here tonight. And I'll turn the mic over to you to share some of your thoughts, please.
Good evening. Actually, I just came here because I was told that the Sportsman's Foundation is practically the only place where Democrats and Republicans can get together and there's no pursuant mayhem. I wanted to see it for myself. The evening isn't over yet. I was a little bit older than Mark when I became a hunter. I was 3. My older brother and my father would go squirrel hunting and bird hunting, And at the age of 3, they allowed me to tag along. I didn't find out until many years later that the only reason I was there is they couldn't afford a dog. But ever since that age, it has seemed only natural to me that farming and hunting are pretty much the same thing. And I think that we've gotten away from it. And I noticed in some of the stuff in the brochures, some of the things that are being done is to try and marry those things back together again. And I was very, very gratified to see so many pieces of just common sense legislation being proposed that are good for the economy, they're good for the environment, and they're good for us as sportsmen. I mean, these things only seem to make sense, and it's nice to see that politicians will actually engage in some things that just actually make sense. But that's my 2 cents for all of this, but I thank you all very, very much for supporting this, because I want to continue to be a hunter and a fisherman. My children are hunters and fishermen. My grandchildren are hunters and fishermen. And I would like for their grandchildren to be hunters and fishermen, but the only way that's going to happen is through this work. So thank you all for what you do.
I don't want to embarrass Gerald with this comment, but I want to be clear about this, right? He's looking at me, giving me the evil eye. It's hard to be a successful actor in Hollywood and say and do what Gerald does, right? He's taken a position. He's taken a position as a gun owner. He's taken a position as someone interested in conservation. He's taken a proud position as someone who is willing to hunt and fish. That's not easy to do, and you're a very successful actor.
I hunt and fish with a passion. I'm not just willing.
So I think it's terrific, and I think it's it takes a man of courage and a man of conviction to do that. So let's give another hand to Gerald.
Thank you, Mark. As we wrap up this program, I think you can get the drift that what we do is work in the policy arena as that conduit between a lot of the great sportsmen's conservation communities and these various sportsmen's caucuses. I've got a couple of members of a couple of our caucuses here tonight that I'd like to recognize. The U.S. Congress is actually in session today and tomorrow, so our active members are actually in D.C. But one of our former caucus members from the state of Texas, Congressman Max Sandlin, thank you. He was a champion for us for about a decade. And you might also know his wife was a member of our Sportsman's Caucus when she was in Congress from South Dakota, Stephanie Herseth Sandlin. So, power couple that believes in hunting, fishing, and the great outdoors. Mark mentioned this network of state sportsmen's caucuses, which has really grown from when we started it to 44 states and over 2,000 legislators. We have an executive committee made up of legislators from around the country, and with us again this year from Illinois, State Representative Brandon Phelps. And I'm going to say he's a Democrat, and why this is important is he managed to carry a bill in the Illinois legislature, which had to go through Chicago, and all the votes there to make Illinois the last final state to have concealed carry. So Brandon, thank you for doing that. I'm going to take one more chance to recognize going north of the border to our neighbors in Canada. We've got a member of the Parliament here with us as well, who has been in Parliament since 1995 and has recently announced that this is going to be his last term in Parliament, that he's going to go back to the farm and spend more time hunting and fishing and less time in the Parliament in Canada. But Member of Parliament Gary Breitkreitz, some of you may know, carried the legislation in Canada that finally did away with the long gun registry and made them abolish all those records and buried gun control in Canada. So, Gary, if you'd come up. I've gotten to know Gary because one of the other things that he was able to do was that he took the model of the Congressional Sportsmen's Caucus, took it, put it into a Canadian perspective, and created the Canadian Outdoor Parliamentary Caucus, and he is still the current co-chair of that caucus, and they're doing great stuff in Canada. And so tonight we want to recognize you for your great work on behalf of sportsmen and women across the border there with a call box with a goose and duck call, and great for you. And I hope you're not going to be a stranger when you step out of Parliament. Gary?
Pleasant surprise. And Jeff, I want to take the opportunity to thank you very, very much for the advice you have given me, for the support you have given us. Phil Morlock introduced us in 2006. I came down to Washington, saw how things were working there, came back to Canada and established our own, what we call Outdoors Caucus, to preserve our traditional heritage activities. And without your support, this wouldn't have happened. I could go through the history of how this has all evolved, but you set the example for us as to how this can be done. We have 4 political parties in Canada. They all belong to the Outdoors Caucus, and just like here, they make sure that partisanship doesn't enter into the equation. So Jeff, I want to recognize you and just express my appreciation for how you have helped us north of the border get things done. It's sometimes difficult to get through the media to explain to the general population the importance that sportsmen, hunters, anglers play in the environment and in preserving our activities and the ability to enjoy those activities. So once again, thank you very, very much. This is a bit of a surprise. I was not expecting this today, but thank you very, very much to all of you. I also have to say to those of you that I'm meeting here from across the wide spectrum of all the industries that are involved, I really appreciate your support in Canada as well. You mean a lot to us, and without your support, the broad support that we get, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing.